Week 12 of the NFL season is officially in the books, and needless to say, this was a very eventful week in the NFL. The Texans beat the Bills, the Chiefs beat the Colts, and the Dallas Cowboys had a 21-point come-from-behind win to beat the Eagles to improve to 5-5-1. And on Sunday Night Football in front of the nation, Matt Stafford looked even more like a future MVP winner as the Rams beat the Bucs 34-7 in a game where Matt Stafford would throw for 273 yards and 3 touchdowns in a game that was largely decided by halftime. And in today's video, we're going to break down the biggest winners and losers from Week 12. And there was a lot that took place this week, and if you could like the video before we start, a football will appear when you do, and it would also be very much appreciated and help tremendously with the almighty YouTube algorithm. And with that preface out of the way, let's begin. And we are starting today's video with the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams defeated the Bucs on Sunday Night Football with a score of 34-7, and this was a game where the Rams were up 31-7 at half. Matt Stafford finished this game 25 of 35 for 273 yards and 3 touchdowns, and when this team is on, they are undoubtedly one of, if not the best team in football. And the first half of this game was, in a lot of ways, a highlight reel for the Rams. Davante Adams had 2 touchdowns, and Matt Stafford improved his TD to INT ratio on the year to 30-2 as he continues to lead MVP conversations. Baker Mayfield left the game after a Hail Mary throw at the end of the first half, and the Rams pass rush sacked him and backup quarterback Teddy Bridgewater a combined 4 times as Kobe Turner and Jared Verse each had 2 sacks. And through 12 weeks, the Rams sit alone atop the NFC West, and when this team is rolling, like they have been dating back to the London game against the Jags, it's hard not to think they won't be Super Bowl champions at season's end, and they also sit atop the NFC too. And if I had to pick a team to win the Super Bowl through 12 weeks, it would be the Los Angeles Rams. And within this game against Tampa, even before Baker was hurt, it looked like varsity versus JV, and I truly believe if the Rams wanted to in the second half, Matt Stafford could have thrown 2 more touchdowns, and this game could have ended 48 or even 55-7. And one thing Ram fans have been annoyed with head coach Sean McVay in the past is taking the foot off the gas before he should, and sometimes letting teams back in games, but that didn't happen in Week 12 and the Rams cruised to an easy win. The only thing I would say that I did not agree with, and I'd be eager to hear how Rams fans feel about this, is I didn't like the fact Matt Stafford and Kyren Williams were still in the game with 5 minutes left, mainly because the game was way out of hand. But I would also say that's a great problem to have in the first place. And the Rams are big winners from Week 12 because the Eagles lost to the Cowboys and fell to 8-3, who of course beat the Rams earlier in the year. And another big winner from Week 12 is the Dallas Cowboys. The Eagles started out hot in this game and were up 21-0 early in the second quarter. And it looked like the Eagles offense finally figured everything out, and that good things happen when A.J. Brown gets the football, and that they looked like a Super Bowl contender. But as Lee Corso would say, not so fast, as the Cowboys came back and scored 24 unanswered to win the game 24-21. And when you look at the Cowboys' remaining schedule, the biggest thing this team has to do is, at minimum, split the Chiefs and Lions in weeks 13 and 14, because if they do that, then they can get to 10 wins and they can make the playoffs. That is not an exaggeration. And within this game, Dak Prescott passed Tony Romo for the most passing yards in franchise history, and how fitting it came in a come-from-behind win over the arch-rival Eagles. And why I also include the Cowboys in today's video is this team plays with their hair on fire under Brian Schottenheimer, and I mean that in a good way. And I'll be honest, one of the takes I had this offseason that was flat out wrong was that I did not like the Schottenheimer hire and thought it was going to be a year or two of okay or bad play, and in some ways, waste Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb's prime. But he's been awesome as the team's head coach, and this team has allowed just 37 points in their first 2 games off the bye. And with a defensive line that has guys like Osa Odighizuwa, Kenny Clark, and Quinnen Williams, along with Donovan Ezeraku at edge, well, this team can get somewhere. And the biggest thing for the Cowboys after this win is the opportunity for them is there. And before we continue, I asked the question, do you like to buy, sell, trade, or rip cards? You guys know I love to buy football cards, I love opening packs of cards, and especially getting players rookie cards, that way I can follow them along throughout their NFL career. You guys also know I'm a Vikings fan, and of course I love my guy JJ McCarthy, and this football card here with the state of Minnesota on it with JJ in his Vikings uniform is pretty sweet. And with the topic of football cards, that brings us to today's sponsor, Arena Club. And if you like opening cards too, well, Arena Club is changing the hobby with their no-fee auctions and original slab packs. And with original slab packs, you can rip a pack for as low as $25 and hit on a card that's worth significantly more. And one of my favorite parts about these slab packs is, as soon as you open the slab pack, you will receive an offer based on its estimated fair market value. There's no guessing or waiting, you will receive an instant offer based on the card's estimated fair market value. I absolutely love opening cards, and while making this video, I actually pulled a Gem Mint 10 Barry Sanders rookie card. And right now, you can go to arenaclub.com/GFB to get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase. Once again, that's arenaclub.com/GFB to get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase, and a big thank you to Arena Club for sponsoring today's video. The Pittsburgh Steelers are up, and they're in today's video for a couple of reasons, both from a macro perspective and a micro perspective. So, within the micro perspective, and within the Week 12 game, they're in today's video because this was a game that they should have performed a lot better offensively, even with a backup quarterback, and they didn't. And one thing that really frustrates me from a game planning perspective and maximizing what players can do, which is a coach's job, and to be able to maximize production, is not putting your players in advantageous situations to be able to maximize the said player's production. And over the offseason, the Steelers, of course, made a big trade for former Seahawks receiver DK Metcalf. And within this game against Chicago, DK Metcalf finished with 8 targets and had 5 receptions for 22 yards. And what is particularly noteworthy about this for DK is both Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon were out for the Bears. You know, the Bears starting top 2 corners. They also had a couple of linebackers out within this game. And within this game, the Bears had Ruben Hippolyte, a 4th-round rookie from Maryland, play at linebacker, DeMarco Jackson and Amen Ogbongbemiga play at linebacker. And needless to say, that's not exactly Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs, Mike Singletary, and Dick Butkus playing across the middle and having receivers fear going across the middle. So specifically with Amen Ogbongbemiga, he had played 150 career snaps prior to yesterday, and he was a 2021 undrafted free agent, so there's not exactly a reputation that he has of him shutting players down across the middle. And the same thing applies to DeMarco Jackson, who prior to yesterday had played just 40 snaps all season, and Ruben Hippolyte was a day 3 rookie, so why you wouldn't continuously attack across the middle is really baffling to me, and that's one that I don't exactly understand from offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. One other thing that I don't understand, and why I don't understand why teams don't do this more, is DK Metcalf, and this applies to other big-bodied receivers as well, make your quarterback's life easier. DK Metcalf is obviously a very big receiver, and I don't want to get into the 3-cone time and all of that and the short shuttle within his NFL combine, but DK Metcalf can run a slant route, and if you have man-to-man coverage pre-snap, and if you are seeing somebody come in motion and you are seeing the other defender trail with them, then you obviously know it's man coverage. So why would you not want to run slant routes or drag routes or anything to get the football in DK Metcalf's hands and give him a chance to catch the ball on the run, which is where he's best? And we saw him house a very big play against the Minnesota Vikings earlier in the year where he caught a ball on the run and took it to the crib. So for DK Metcalf to finish this game with 5 receptions for 22 yards is kind of a joke, and it's kind of a slap in his face relative to what the game plan should have been, considering you also gave him a $30+ million contract in terms of AAV. That's obviously very frustrating from a single game perspective. As an NFL coaching staff, you are paid to maximize what your players can do, and obviously they did not do that in this game against a team that was very banged up, and also the fact that your defense scored a touchdown in this game and the opportunity to win was there. Now, from a macro perspective, this whole season is extremely frustrating because the Steelers, at least internally, entered the year thinking they had Super Bowl aspirations. They did not bring in Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and trade for DK Metcalf to basically say, you know what, hey, we're good with another 9-8 season. TJ Watt has not won a playoff game in his entire career. The last playoff win we had was all the way back in 2016, so we're actually good on the winning. We're a little full from the winning, and we'd rather, again, be a wild card round exit, and we would actually try and rather be a wild card and let the Ravens win the division. That is not what the Steelers had in mind entering the season. So from a macro perspective, to lose this game and also have the Ravens win in Week 12, that inevitably makes the Ravens big winners because the Steelers also lost, and now the Ravens currently currently have the tiebreaker for the division, so at this point in time, the Steelers are currently out of the playoffs, and inevitably, that makes the Steelers big losers from Week 12 when you look at the fact that they did not capitalize on the opportunity, and also the fact that they had a couple of losses leading up to this game that they shouldn't have, and now that the Ravens are in control of the division, and that the Ravens, to me, are a better team than the Steelers, and if I had to pick a division winner at this point in time, unfortunately for Steelers fans, it would be the Baltimore Ravens. The Buffalo Bills are in today's video for similar reasons to the Pittsburgh Steelers, though not exactly the same, but they're in today's video because they lost to the Texans 23-19 in Week 12, and it was how they lost this game. Josh Allen was sacked a career-high 8 times, and he was running for his life time and time again, as Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter more than had their way with the Bills' offensive line, and when you look at how this Bills roster is constructed, and given the fact that they're 7-4 and what was supposed to be a Super Bowl or bust year for them, and then you look up at the AFC East standings and realize the Patriots are 10-2 and the Patriots' remaining schedule is not all that difficult and that they're probably going to win the AFC East, and for the Bills just to get to the Super Bowl, let alone win the Super Bowl, would probably require 3 straight road playoff games. And again, what is a Super Bowl or bust year? Well, it's been a difficult season for the Bills so far, and I'm going to be honest, this is the first time I've said this in the history of this channel, but I think there's a very real possibility that GM Brandon Beane and head coach Sean McDermott are shown the door at season's end. This roster isn't great. There's also been poor decisions made over the past couple of years in the draft process, and when you look at the playmakers that Josh Allen has to throw to, I'm going to be honest, it's not great. And the reality is Josh Allen and every other quarterback needs a baseline level of supporting cast, and it's simply not there. The offensive line was not good in this game. The receiving core was not good in this game, and they had Keon Coleman, a second-round pick from 2024, miss this game and was a healthy scratch because he missed a meeting prior to the Week 11 game on Friday. And the reality is that is a terrible look for the organization all the way around, from a publicity standpoint, from a culture standpoint, and from a locker room standpoint. And to have teammates call Keon Coleman out specifically, well, things got pretty ugly in Buffalo pretty quickly, and I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised at all if this team is at maximum a divisional round exit. And when you look at how poor this roster is outside of a few key players, well, I think that's why Brandon Beane is going to be shown the door this offseason. Next up is the Green Bay Packers, as they dominated the Vikings 23-6 in Week 12 and improved to 7-3-1. The Packers are in today's video for a few reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is this was a classic look-ahead game as they play the Lions on Thanksgiving and could have easily looked past this Vikings team and found themselves in a situation late in the game like they did against the Browns back in Week 3 or like they did against the Panthers in Week 9. But they didn't, and they took care of business. And this was also without star tight end Tucker Kraft, who of course is out for the year with a torn ACL, and running back Josh Jacobs too. The Packers completely dominated this game as they nearly doubled the Vikings' yards as they had 288 to Minnesota's 145 and won the time of possession battle 37 minutes to 23. Running back Emmanuel Wilson did a great job starting in relief of Josh Jacobs as he had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Jordan Love did what he needed to do in this game to get the team a win. And I think the play that summarized this game best for Jordan Love and the Packers was a 3rd and 10 fadeaway jump throw to get a first down late in the first quarter. The Packers defense was suffocating as JJ McCarthy threw for just 87 yards and was also sacked 5 times, and this was a big brother versus little brother game, and the game ended around 3:45 Eastern. To give you an idea of how fast this game was played and how efficiently the Packers sent the Vikings back to Minnesota with their tail tucked between their legs. Micah Parsons was awesome in this game, and the Packers defense has allowed 20 points just once in the last 4 games, and with where the NFC North currently is, it will be interesting to see how this division plays out. And speaking of the NFC North, I think we have to go to Chicago to discuss the division-leading Bears, who sit atop the North with an 8-3 record. And with this win, the Bears are 6-1 since their Week 5 bye, with the lone loss coming in Baltimore against the Ravens. And over the course of the 2025 season, the Bears have heard it all. Beat a real team, beat a team above 500, play a complete game, and you get the point. And why I think the Bears specifically deserve a spot in today's video is you can make a legit argument this team spotted the Steelers 7 points with the defensive touchdown the Steelers had. And spotted probably isn't the correct word, but they made a very poor mental mistake that you can't have against good teams, yet overcame the mistake. And I think that's huge for the Bears as they make a playoff push. And even within this game, which was not the Bears' best game offensively, defensively, Caleb Williams still threw 3 touchdowns, DJ Moore caught 2 touchdowns, and Kyle Monangai ran for a touchdown too. And they also put up 31 points and are quietly 8th in the NFL in points per game. And if you would have said they'd go 8-1 in their next 9 games after a 52-21 beatdown in Detroit in week 2, well, quite frankly, I don't think anybody would have believed you. And with Detroit, they were in a bit of a dogfight in week 12 as the Jameis Winston Giants nearly beat them. But Jahmyr Gibbs is one of the biggest winners individually from week 12, as he had a 264 total yard performance, as well as having 3 total touchdowns. And with this game, Jahmyr Gibbs now has over 1,300 total yards in the year, along with 13 total touchdowns, and now has 44 total touchdowns in 43 games played. And the Lions are good every year for a reason, and it's because Brad Holmes drafts good football players and lets the rest fall into place. And soon enough, Gibbs will be a 3-time Pro Bowler in 3 years, and I've said this before, but he is truly one of the most talented backs I've ever seen strictly from the eye test. He's unbelievable, and he's a big reason why the Lions survived the scare from the New York Football Giants in week 12. The Minnesota Vikings are up after they lost in week 12 with a score of 23-6 to the Green Bay Packers, and this is a team that looked very lifeless offensively for most, if not all, of this game. The only points that they had on the board were 2 50-plus yard field goals from second-year kicker Will Reichert, so I guess if you want to say individually, Will Reichert is a big winner from week 12, be my guest, but this was a really bad performance from quarterback J.J. McCarthy again, and now when I was recording this video, it was announced that J.J. McCarthy will be entering the concussion protocol, so there's a very real reality that undrafted free agent Max Brosmer starts in week 13 against the Seattle Seahawks, and I'll be honest, based on what we've seen from J.J. McCarthy, it would be hard to do worse than what we've seen from J.J. McCarthy in his 6 career starts for Max Brosmer in his first career start in week 13 against the Seahawks. And there is a stat that was released on Sunday night, and out of 852 quarterbacks in this stat from True Media, which is EPA per dropback, guess where J.J. McCarthy ranks since the year 2000? Again, there are 852 quarterbacks, and if you would guess that J.J. McCarthy ranks 851st, you would be correct. The only player that JJ is better than is none other than Jamarcus Russell himself. So after the game, some people started calling him Jamarcus McCarthy because of how bad he's played through the first 6 games of his career. He has 6 passing touchdowns to 10 interceptions, and whether it is very slow progressions or simply not reading the right plays whenever the plays and opportunities are in front of him, it's been a very difficult stretch and opening part of JJ McCarthy's career. And I'm going to be honest, if things don't improve by the end of the 2025 season to the point where there's any sort of confidence in him moving forward, then I think the Vikings are going to make a big decision at the quarterback position this offseason and simply go in a different direction. But right now, things look really bad in the Twin Cities, and this was the highest selected quarterback in franchise history as they traded up one spot with the Jets from pick 11 to pick 10 to ensure they got, at the time, their guy. The Philadelphia Eagles are also in today's video as they blew a 21-0 lead to the Dallas Cowboys, which was the second largest comeback win in Cowboys franchise history. And within this game, quarterback Dak Prescott passed Tony Romo for most passing yards in Cowboys franchise history. And right now, there are a lot of concerns in Philly. Can this team play a full game? Can this team establish the run at all? And it kind of amplifies the fact with Lane Johnson out, who is a Hall of Fame offensive tackle. And can they get anything going, especially against a team in week 13 against the Bears, who, while they have shown flashes at times defensively, I wouldn't say from a personnel or from a roster standpoint that the 2025 Chicago Bears are amongst the top 2 or 3 defenses in the league. And this, if anything, should have woke a bear up or a hibernating animal within the Philadelphia Eagles locker room and organization, because the results that we've seen outside of a half here or a half there have been pretty frightening and alarming at times. And to blow the lead in a game that you had by every definition won, and in a game where your star running back, who by the way ran for 2,000 yards last year, had just 10 carries for 22 yards, to me is very concerning and ultimately puts the Philadelphia Eagles in today's video. They also had a very big special teams miscue in the second half that certainly allowed the Cowboys to more than get back into the game, and the Cowboys now are in a position where they can legitimately win the NFC East. Full transparency, I don't think the Cowboys are going to win the division, but the opportunity is there, specifically because the Eagles blew a 3-touchdown lead within this game. And not only are the Eagles in this video because they blew a lead to the arch-rival Cowboys, but the Rams also won on Sunday night, and they right now look like future Super Bowl champions. And if I were a member of the Philadelphia Eagles or a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles, I know that they beat the Rams earlier in the year, but I wouldn't want to go out to SoFi and play the Rams with the season on the line in the NFC Championship, especially with how inconsistent this team is. And even within the Rams game, Philadelphia did not show up in the first half of that game at all, and I would argue they were pretty lucky to win that game. A win is a win, of course, never apologize for winning, but with where the Eagles currently are, and we know that the Eagles fans are one of the most patient and understanding fan bases out of any of the fan bases in the NFL, this is a pretty bleak situation at the moment because you don't know if they're going to be able to put a full half together, and the fact that Lane Johnson is one of the best players in football, and he's going to be out for another couple of weeks. And the one thing that I think really would drive me mad if I were an Eagles fan right now is the uncertainty around this football team at this point in time. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are in today's video for a couple of reasons, and it's more than just losing 34-7 to the Los Angeles Rams. They've now lost 3 in a row, and this is now in a situation for the Bucs where they're going to have to beat the Panthers when they play them twice in the remaining 7 games of the 2025 season, which is a situation that I don't think the Bucs would have ever saw themselves getting into when they enter their bye with a 6-2 record. But what scares me specifically with the Bucs is I think this is a good team, but not quite a great team, and they've also been banged up with injuries. I do want to acknowledge that part, and what I also want to acknowledge, because multiple things can be true at once, is the Bucs were down 31-7 at half with Baker Mayfield in this Week 12 game against the Rams. It was not a 34-7 loss strictly because of Teddy Bridgewater. They were already getting their asses kicked prior to Baker Mayfield leaving the game, so I do want that part to at least be clear. But I know the Bucs beat the Seahawks and they beat the 49ers earlier in the year, but I don't think that this team is in that quite level of that great tier, and I don't think that they're going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl this year, and I really question where this team's future is going to go from here. And again, I know that the Bucs are banged up in the moment, but when you look at the vision of this team, I think Jason Light has done a really good job of assembling this roster and has done a good job overall, but I question the coaching staff, I question the ceiling that this team has, and I think at maximum that they're going to be divisional round exits this year, and we'll see how the 2026 offseason goes. But to me, this is a team that is perpetually stuck between good and great, and I don't know how they're ever going to get to that great level to legitimately compete for a Super Bowl year in and year out. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like and subscribe as we are closing in on 225,000 subscribers, and I cannot thank you guys enough for the support. Thank you to Arena Club for sponsoring today's video, and until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.